Just two quick stories I wanted to share with you. Because I realize how, to many Americans, those of us who grew up on Arnold Schwarzenegger action movies and, John Wayne type westerns, where when you stick your gun in the bad guy's face, he breaks down and starts blubbering and saying, "Oh, yeah, I did it," or whatever. It's actually Perry Mason was the guy who was really successful. He used psychology. Here, this is, again, this article by Stephen Budiansky in the Atlantic Monthly. This was a few years ago. And he's quoting a fellow by the name of Moran, who was considered the most successful interrogator of Japanese prisoners of war during World War II. The most successful guy. He spoke Japanese. He'd lived in Japan. He knew the culture. And he said, and this is a quote from him, from the most successful interrogator of prisoners in World War II, saved, maybe helped us win the war, saved thousands of lives. He said, the first and most important victory is getting into the mind and heart of the prisoner and achieving an intellectual and spiritual rapport with him. Get it? About 15 years ago, we had, I think it was about 13 years ago. Remember when Schindler's List came out, the movie? We were living in Atlanta at the time. I was running an ad agency in Atlanta. And we had living with us a German exchange student, a young man by the name of Oliver, a very nice kid. He was, I think, 15 or 16 years old. He was about the same age as our son. And we took Oliver, who had been through the German public schools and was a high school student. We took him with us to see Schindler's List. And about halfway through the movie, Oliver just breaks down. And through the entire movie, this kid, this, I don't want to say tough football player. I mean, he was a smart kid. He was also, he was kind of an all-American German kid, if you know what I mean. This kid sobbed all the way through that movie, and for an hour, as we drove home, as we got to the house, and finally when he could talk about it, he said, I knew we did that stuff. We learned that in school. But I didn't know we did that stuff until I saw the movie. I didn't realize that it was people. I'm paraphrasing, 15-year-old memory, but words to that effect. And I remember when we lived in Germany, we used to take our kids on day trips, or we'd get a 1-week Eurail pass or whatever and travel around Europe. It was we had sold a business, and it was a year off for us. And we went to Dachau, the labor camp near Munich, where Dr. Mengele was performing his experiments on people. And, walking through Dachau with our children and looking at the pictures of the people stacked up, the bodies stacked up to be put in the crematorium, and then walking through the furnace. I wonder, not even if the day will come, but when the day will come, that a generation of Americans, perhaps not even born yet, will walk through a museum at Bagram Air Force Base in Afghanistan, or Abu Ghraib in Iraq, or Guantanamo in Cuba, or perhaps one of the hidden sites inside the United States, or in Poland, or in Czechoslovakia. And it will be our Dachau. And we will walk through those with our children saying, yes, this is what we did. This is what George Bush and Alberto Gonzales and Dick Cheney did. And we are ashamed. And if our children, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, will watch a movie about what happened, a Schindler's List about what happened, about the 4.5 million Iraqi refugees, about children prostituting themselves because their parents are dead, and will break down in tears.